It's preparing. Okay. And I'll pull it up on my phone because it'll start echoing. Yay. Preparing. Okay, we're on. And I'll pull it up on my phone. Okay. Hold on one second. Start echoing. Okay, we're on. Pull it up on my phone. Okay. Pull it up on my phone. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on one moment. Okay, we're on. Perfect. All right. They've been on a little longer, but it just takes me a minute to acclimate to the live. Welcome, everyone. Peace to the east, west, and the north, and the south. This is FleurBrun coming to today with a fantastic new special guest that has agreed to actually come talk to me, which, you know, I'm always excited because I either scare people, I just freak them out. So he's not afraid. Hey, Ryan, this is Ryan Veli. Yeah. I loved his content. I actually saw him on Victor Hugo's show, who I've been on a couple of times, and I found him extremely fascinating, very, very worldly in information and in consciousness. And I thought it would be amazing to have Ryan on the show to speak to my collective here. So everyone, I'd like to welcome Ryan Veli, and I'd actually like him to introduce himself, ask him what began your kind of like introduction to coming online and speaking about the things that you've become aware of, and about the occurrences now, past, present, and future.
So thank you, Fleur, for having me on. I appreciate it very much to have the opportunity to talk to your audience. And I'm looking forward to a happy chat, maybe, because I've had some really dark ones. I was like, when you asked me, I looked at your content and I was laughing. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to her. That'll be fun.
It'll be fun. And I'm a frog some days, but remember, Trump denied me my rights to be a trans frog, gay, Jewish man. So I'm really upset right now, Ryan. I'm recovering and I'm going through my own personal therapy. He's allowed to be orange and I'm not allowed to be who I feel I want to be. So I'm glad you decided to come, even though I'm going through my special, you know, my psychological transformation right now. So
still processing. I understand. It's difficult to accept those limitations.
So hold on. We like to wait a little bit. Let's chat a little bit. I want to find out about you. Where are you? Whatever you feel comfortable from, where's your neck of the woods? Where did you start off at? Where did you begin your development of understanding what's going on in this holographic experience that we call Earth Simulation 666 at this point?
I was originally born in Los Angeles, but I was raised pretty much in Montreal for most of my life.
Montreal, vous parlez français?
Montréal, oui, je parle français. Pas comme français, mais I can curse in French very well.
Merde.
God, this
I love it. I love it.
They have the best swear words, I have to say. They say it with the most emotion. Ours sounds so vulgar in contrast to theirs. Right. Theirs usually revolves around some kind of a holy item, an asti or a chapel or something, and it's
passion, right?
You know, so it's actually lovely here. The people of Quebec are really wonderful for the most part. They are. You know, and they have a lot of what they call joie de vivre. So the French did leave that, so they have an appreciation for life that I appreciate. A lot of people knock them for their nationalism, but that was kind of one of the good things that keeps them together.
Great. Absolutely.
And it's just what it becomes. Yeah, exactly. They need to protect their culture, but I just wish they would do it a little more without stomping on others. But
well, you know, the French, I come from a French culture, you know, it's part of the passion part. Like, you know, we want to make love and eat wonderful and drink wine and, you know, just speak French, and just it goes globally. French all around the world generally have the same emotional, you know, ties to culture and language.
And once they accept you, though, they're very warm and welcoming. It's just getting past that initial layer sometimes because they are a minority in North America. And if you look around, there is a lot of imperialist oppression and genocidal things going on. So I
Really,
understand
Ryan? You don't say.
right? So I mean, they get it. They get it in a lot of ways. So it's a nice place to live.
Absolutely.
Like I said, you know, standard of living is not. I read a statistic. The average Montreal home is 518,000, and that means you have to earn $143,000 a year to afford a home, and the average income is 65,000.
It's
So
insane.
just
It's insane.
it's preposterous. It's
purposefully
preposterous.
done. I just came
100%.
from, I think I talked about it before. I just came from, I love going to Canada. Usually we're on the Vermont side and we go to Montreal or Quebec, which I love. It's nice to hear my native tongue too. So it just a little country though. It sounds like Western to us, like country music in the way that I perceive their accent. But I was in British Columbia over on the Vancouver side. I loved it, but it is expensive as all heaven. I mean, just to get a B&B was like, you know, a mortgage.
Exactly. And I had seen 3.5 condos there for $1.2 million.
It's insane. The Chinese, the mega rich Chinese, Xinhua are over there. And what they did, they drove the economy. They drove the inflation. Like they have astronomical amount of money. I don't know how. It's, you know, we can always think about how, but they bought a lot of places, real estate, and they've driven the prices up. And it's really sad because the basic Canadian can't, you know, young Canadians can't even afford, after graduating college, can't afford to buy a house. They really can't see that in the future.
Yeah, it's very bleak for them. But I have to say about Vancouver and BC that it was kind of, I want to say imperialist seeded. And one of my friends had gone there early on, like decades ago, and he was building fences. And he built a fence for the Archbishop. And he was talking about even back then, this is in the 90s. This is before the Hong Kong influx in 99 and such. And they were saying that the Archbishop was saying that they keep the real estate prices high to keep their hold on the area and to keep people out. So once you were in, the value of your real estate went up. And they basically made their money off that, and they keep the stakes high so nobody else could get in. So it is a way to insulate and protect their imperialist roots, I guess, is the idea, which I don't approve of. And I thought Vancouver and Victoria were really beautiful, but I had people that were just terrified of me, and I would walk by and looking like me, like, I don't know. I'm super nice, but
you look nice. You don't look threatening. I've seen other beings that look threatening.
I have a talent like my mother to appear homeless, so I could appear homeless or I could appear classy. It really could go either way. I can fool you.
I love it though. I mean, you would fit in downtown Vancouver because they've got that little area that's a little funky by the church. We figured out we can discuss it later. I actually feel like whenever you have this nest of homeless, I feel like they're protecting areas like stargates or underground tunnels, deterring people from accessing those areas, just being, you know, apprehensive to go to those areas, because there's a church down in Vancouver that we think could be an entry to something, because all of the homeless are like nested around it.
So that's something very interesting, because indeed there is an old world. And I'll tell you something interesting just about Canada, because I don't want to get into the details, but the project manager that was in charge of renovating the House of Commons was digging down, and under the House of Commons, the Parliament building, there was more structures that shouldn't be there. So that means that our Parliament building was built on top of a prior civilization, which goes back much further, and that was big hush and security cleared. So when you look at the old world nature of a lot of the Canadian cities, you see this inexplicable ancient construction that we can't replicate today, all being connected by underground tunnels in certain areas, especially in Montreal. They all have sub basements, like 3-4 stories below. And they did have connections between many buildings in the area that they keep hush hush. So there is a story here that has not been told about North American history that goes back to antiquity. And Great Reset has happened before, and
Many
with
times.
resets with many times. And with that comes a new narrative. And when they wipe out or imprison or throw in a sane asylum anybody who can think or remembers any of the past, and they get rid of them, then literally it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. They wipe the consciousness of the culture clean, and then they recode it with a bunch of bullshit lie shenanigans.
That's right.
And then they make it a law to say anything otherwise. And
well, they're doing that now with Palestine. If you say the word Palestine, there's no Palestine. They don't want you to say the word Palestine. They don't want you to mention that there's actually people there that are Semitic. You know, they're just trying to vilify anyone who talks about it, and trying to, obviously they control the dark. What now? Let's, since we're getting in, we're almost at 500, but let's start off and get a little messy. Who do you feel, Ryan, is at the top of this pyramid? Now, we have theories. I have theories, but I'm so fascinated to know, who do you think? Because there's all these so-called groups like the Jesuits, the Zionists, but I actually think it's a non-humanoid, maybe even AI based, who's kind of driving the system by these dark lords, because you know they always worship the dark lords. And who per se do you think that could possibly be puppeting this simulated environment that we're existing in now?
That's a great question, and it kind of it's not beating around the bush and going straight to the root of the problem. So I'll honor you with a very direct answer, and it's going to go back to Gnosticism. And again, there's a lot of Christians that think Gnosticism is some kind of evil philosophy, but Christianity and Gnosticism and Hermeticism were all very, very similar. And if you want to think and understand the Christ, you should study and learn what he had access to. And what he had access to was knowledge from the Essenes, Gnostic ideology, and Hermetic philosophy, and all of these things. And if you mix that with some of the East, his understanding of energy and even Buddhist and Hindu principles, then you're going to understand his teachings. But if you bypass it and you take the many revised versions that we're getting, and all the books that were left out have not been read by our people, then you're going to get this fractured understanding. So if you go to Gnostic philosophy, it described there being one consciousness that divided into two, and in the center, so two like circles separating and crossing over a period, that's the Vesca Pisces, which is the child. So this Holy Trinity is not Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It's Father, Mother, Christ consciousness, which emanates as the life, the myriad of life forms coming out from this central point of consciousness. And in doing so, there are childlike higher consciousness that they would describe as aeons, that each had the power of creation in their own domains. Our aeon happened to be of a feminine polarity and created without the assistance of the masculine. So goes this story. And as a consequence, a life form called the Demiurge was created, the one who is created but believes it's the only one. So it's like the child that doesn't acknowledge its parents. And with that creation also came these fractured souls called archons, which being in a detached state, parasitize and suck energy from those that are still connected to source. So when you look at a lot of the philosophies that describe, like, you know, and human antiquity, you come across these archonic, Elohim, even you could maybe say even Anunnaki, but it is some kind of parasitic ruler of this world that uses our suffering as a food source.
As a loosh, yeah.
As a loosh. And so now when you examine, so that's from the top down, so now from the bottom up. So when I'm learning, and first of all, I've had NDE, so I knew there was another side and that a lot of interesting stuff there. But to cut to the chase, I had gone through the military and I went in as a contractor after, and more of a strategic and research and development level. And I was exposed to information that connected a lot of the dots with what was actually going on. And one of the dots that was connected, first of all, obviously, who did 9/11, but also that at the bigger scale, they all worked together, and that the Chinese and the US deep state were on the same side, cajoling and hurting humanity towards their objective of a technocratic slave grid, basically, however they phrase it. So then you investigate. I needed to know, well, okay, who are these people? Well, obviously it's the bankers. So this all stems from the flow of currency and the economic and financial systems, which are controlled by 13 families. And you say, okay, well, where do these 13 families congregate? Well, they have areas of responsibility, but they also have neutral ground where they have a lot of their steering committees, and that's out of Switzerland and through organizations like Octagon, which is basically the top of all militaries, and of course the top of the financial system, and a lot of their underground bunkers and underground sciences and occult groups originate out of there. And you say, well, okay, so we find these cult groups. What do? Well, they do ritual sacrifice, they do bloodletting, they do interdimensional communication, and they take on extra-dimensional intelligences to be their avatars. And so they take them on in these rituals, and that's how they get the power and control over this world, is by sacrificing something to the other side. And when they do that, they find themselves in positions of control. So to connect those things, the thing that helps my lens understand what's going on in the world and connects the most dots is that we are in a realm where there are what we would describe as fallen angels or archonic forces that are capable of extra-dimensional communication and parasitizing human life forms and our suffering and our soul energy. And they have now taken over and consolidated power because they're a smaller group, but they've consolidated power and are consolidating all world governments through the order-following masses that just do exactly what they're told, don't think, don't process, don't even have an understanding of the other side or any kind of extra-dimensional communication, have allowed themselves to be divided intellectually, mentally, spiritually, physically, and conquered by these rulers, because that's the tool they use against us, is to divide us against each other. And they've been very effective at that. And that's basically, I think, who's behind it all. And you're right about all the sub-layers. Yes, there's the Zionists and there's the Khazarian mafia.
But they're all under that umbrella.
But they're all under that umbrella of doing ritual sacrifice and dealing with extra-dimensional beings for power and control over others and to fulfill their desires. They're basically slaves to the 7 deadly sins. And no matter which one of them they are, you could kind of make their little scorecard and look at where's their evil. Is there evil in power, control, gluttony, envy, greed, sloth? What is it? And you'll see every single billionaire checks a whole bunch of those boxes as being really detestable and loathsome creatures that really prey on the rest of us. And that's why they got power.
Well, I feel even to exist in this realm with a level of power and prestige and wealth, you would have to engage and be a participant in a lot of the diabolical low vibrational behaviors, such as murder, child sacrifice, having necrophilia, bestiality, all of the low vibrational behaviors that would kind of imbue those energies. And, I believe in possession through parasitic. Now, most people think parasites are just biological, but spiritual parasites, mental parasites exist. You have things that'll sit on the side of you until they impede on your structure, your body. And as soon as it's low enough consciously, you're behaving in a certain way, they can kind of mount, the concept of mounting you and drive your behavior to engage in ways that feed them, but also feed their minions, their leagues that are on other people or energetically or in the, in the air, in the kinetic air, to do and behave in ways that feed them, the loosh.
100%. And just to connect that, even with people who are alcoholics, they have a yeast factory in their body, and the yeast is calling out for sugar and alcohol to continue the production of yeast. So as soon as you are infected with any kind of parasite, it is capable of sending messages to your body and to your brain to want stuff. And with this knowledge, McDonald's had worked with different companies to create a gut bacteria that would crave Big Macs. So once you get this bacteria seeded on a Big Mac and you eat it, it seeds in your gut, and then it claims, sends you messages to get more of that food to feed that culture. So they have all kinds of tricks to do this. And that's why they're putting these parasitic fogs, bacteria and parasite-laden fogs with graphene oxide and all kinds of...
People are breathing
it in because people are going to get sick, and it's going to affect people and send messages and, as you say, lower the vibration, making us easier to prey upon. when we resonate at a lower frequency, because that's the way the universe works, as Tesla taught us.
Absolutely.
So 100%.
And if anyone wants an example of that, you can always look at the videos on the zombie snail, the zombie ant. They kind of give more of a insect kind of perspective on how a little worm-looking creature can incept a worm or a snail and hijack its brain into synapses and drive it to act in ways that will allow it to be consumed by a larger predator. Then it can gestate and replicate in that animal, and then it poops it out and then starts the whole process over again. So if anybody wants an idea of that, just look at the zombie, just click in zombie snail, zombie ant, and it's really disturbing. But it's a good way to see that it doesn't just happen with insects or animals, it happens with humans. And we have been constantly inundated with perpetual forms of chemicalization, biological weaponry, warfare, most people don't realize, because I worked in science for a long time and my beginning was in heredity and genetics. And when we talk about things like fungus and mold, a lot of these unicellular biological agents, little organisms, are very powerful and they're very resilient and they learn quickly. And they learn to, even in fires, you'll see hypermolds that learn to deal with the heat and replicate, almost like they use the heat. Fires are a great way to have spores like go rogue, environmentally.
Or protect themselves with biofilms, so they build layers, literally like a castle wall of their own dead bodies to protect the living culture inside. So 100%.
Absolutely. Like tumors, cancer.
Yeah.
Fibroids, just like when people get, and I'm not a doctor, I'm just a trans frog. Let me just state this again. I'm a trans frog. Ryan already knows. I've already detailed that I am trying to get my, who I am back from Trump, who's an orange man, and he's not letting me be, but I am a maniac, a psychopath, and we're just having a conversation, okay? But going back to what you're saying, they are building these little, this little, almost like a hardened crust outside to protect the living on the inside. And that is how they become resistant until you poke it and do a biopsy and just free willy. You know what I mean? And then you'll find people have issues after that. Anyway, so we're talking about parasitic infections, but also there are these parasites that exist in the etheric realm. And you said you've had an NDE. Do you astral plane? Have you ever seen these creatures? Because I've actually seen them. Sometimes they're outside in the astral. Sometimes they're corporeal. They hold somewhat of a human form. Others are non-corporeal, kind of like they look a little gelatinous, or they can almost look like a little distorted energetically. Have you ever encountered any of these kind of energetic parasites in the etheric or the astral realm?
So I've tried to view auras and things like that without much success. There's some things I'm good at, and there's some things that I just can't seem to master or to crack. I can say that I've seen orbs, and orbs do have faces in them. And my understanding is that the next layer, the astral, and layers beyond that, they don't have like a grid where they can link in straight to here without an energetic connection. So if you have an emotional bond, sometimes your loved ones can come back when they're in the interim and come in and view things, or other beings could travel as orbs. But it's basically like a spaghetti tube, a tornado vortex conduit from the astral into this realm. And what you're seeing is like you're looking through that tube or that straw, and you'll see the being that's inside of it, and the dark ones work the same way. So I know that people in palliative care environments, sometimes they will see things like that. My grandmother, when she was dying, kept telling me, because she had certain gifts, that she was seeing black flies in the hospital. And I think I think she was seeing what we would describe as parasitic and negative entities that were there to feed on suffering. And she described them as black flies flying all around. And that's why she hated the hospital, because she said it's nothing but black flies there. Well, it's a feeding ground for negative entities, like prisons, like military bases, like war zones, and like any place where they torment people, you're going to get these things hanging around. In the military, I learned law enforcement first, and one of the things they taught me is that if you want to catch a wolf, find out where the sheep hang out, and the wolf won't be very far away. So if you want to know where the demons are, you find the suffering, and you'll find those demons there feeding on it pretty close by.
hospitals are quite interesting in that you have life and death in one building. And, you know, I really think it's disturbing that people would choose to have babies in the same facilities where those archaic types of Western practices are being done constantly. And you know that a lot of these parasites like the brightest light, a lot of energy, and who quickly would they go and latch on but babies. So a lot of babies, you know, in my culture, it's very important to bring the babies into to the ocean, because the salt kind of like that's you know, generally the whole concept of baptism, which is crazy, they say you put them in the water, but it's salt water. It's how you get rid of demons. So usually you're supposed to wash the baby with salt water to clear them of any energetic attachments, but that isn't something that is probably allowed in hospital and hospice situations.
And that's very interesting because, you know, the salt water is almost, you know, chemically very close to blood. So if you wanted to look at a positive use of a mineral solution that's very much like blood, but not the negative, it would be the ocean. Absolutely. So you might consider that the earth's blood. And so you're literally baptizing the child and cleansing the child through salt. Now, it is a strange thing that certain beings have issues with salt. They can't get around salt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Salt is used in ritual to keep them from crossing it. Also, a lot of the really informed groups encourage their members to consume a lot of salt. Whereas on one side, we're told, no, salt's bad for you. It's going to give you high blood pressure. Well, the iodized crap is not good, but in their inner circles, they're told to consume plenty of salt. I think it hardens them against.
You're supposed to put it in your water to allow you to be, because if you drink water that's hard, you notice it doesn't have any saline or salt. And then when someone's about to has a heart attack, the first thing they do is give them an IV, if I'm not mistaken, of saline, which is salt water, high doses of it. So I think it's constantly these suggestions are probably to keep us subjugated and sick and marginalized physically, so that we are easier pellets for, you know, ciphering off of consistently. So I think, you know, a lot of these recommendations are really archaic. And for those who aren't very knowledgeable in medicine or naturopathic or homeopathic medicine, you would be falling victim to a lot of the suggestions to very archaic and very remedial forms of health, you know, maintaining health. And
that's the whole Rockefeller medical system, taking us away from the knowledge that our ancestors had, away from things that work like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic treatments, and towards a chemical, petroleum-based pharmaceutical industrial complex model, and then don't educate all of the so-called healers, the doctors that never heal anything, that don't tell you ever, they don't even ever use the word heal. They only ever say treat. So imagine if you went to a mechanic and the mechanic said, no, I don't fix problems. I'll treat it and you have to come back every week and I'll just grease it to keep it going, but I'll never fix the problem. You'd be like,
sounds about right.
Tired. Get out of here, you know what I mean? But
sounds about right. I mean, if you go outside the country, you're outside the country, and I think Canada has a little more of a higher way of dealing with any issues health-wise. But like in South America, the one thing when you go to a doctor, whether it's Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, the first thing they do is they want to find out systemically what's going on with you. What are you eating? How's your sleep patterns? Have you had any trauma in your life? Has someone passed away? They want to find out the core of what's creating these issues. And because those countries are giving healthcare most likely to the general population, they want to cure you, you know, a little bit better. Whereas, you know, we're living in United States is capitalistic, and their main money and wealth source is making people sick so that they can give them the pharmaceuticals that keep them perpetually, dependent on things and never quite treat them, as you said. You know,
precisely, but I wouldn't get an idealized version of Canadian healthcare. They're very controlled and very, very obedient. So they refuse anything that is not exactly from the Rockefeller model, and they come down very, very hard. At least in the United States, because it's private, you have options. From what I've heard, though, is that because we have government healthcare, when they say they're not giving you an operation or they're not going to do this or that, you're screwed. Yeah. And they want to harvest your organs first here in Canada, so never sign your card. because you're worth more dead than you are alive to them. So they're in a race to offer you suicide or to say that you're brain dead, pull the plug, or say it's an inoperable condition. So they're real butchers up here. I wouldn't trust them further than I can throw them.
Canada.
So be very careful. Yeah. I mean, there are good Canadians for sure, and there are some good doctors in there, no doubt. But the ones that I know that have actually, the best Canadian doctors have left the Canadian medical system because of the depth of corruption and just ritualistic abuse of patients and the harvesting of organs. They're really right up here.
I mean, the first time I heard of the harvesting of organs was about maybe, what was it? It was Trayvon Martin. This was like, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I was going to a Pan-African meetup where they were just talking about, you know, what's going on with the world, what, you know, how, you know, things were going. And it was the first time I heard from his family members that his organs were missing. So this was allegedly an organized hit to gain this young man's organs. And many of us in the Brown community understand that many of those living in the so-called hood or in marginalized sub-tier environments where they're easier to keep in a certain, you know, location, they're the #1 target of harvesting. And a lot of times when you hear of killings or murders, it's usually the person is still alive and they're able to sustain their life because you can't harvest the organ without the body still being, you know, circulating, blood circulating. So it's required for you to be brain dead, but your body's still functioning to a certain degree so they can harvest those organs. So that was the first time I really heard about it. I've heard about it previously, but not something that was tangible that I found out was happening more regularly than I would have ever thought. And as we know, it is the #1 trade on the black market right now is organs. Now, let me ask you a question, Ryan. I have a concept that because you have to ask yourself, they're harvesting all of these organs. I mean, billions of, we're talking about Africa, India, I mean, Asia, the people in prison, their organs are harvested like they offer their organs, as far as I know, in China, like they take their organs without even getting permission.
Sometimes they don't even give them anesthetics. They literally just open them up and take their organs out. It's some of the most primitive, barbaric, anti-human practices I've ever learned about was out of China.
Now, there's a concept I think, I personally, and I want to ask you this and I'll tell you what I think. We aren't just servicing organs for this dimension. I feel like we have a interdimensional organ harvesting, like a highway going, because we don't have enough people in here that would require that. Those organs are going to another dimension. This is what I think. And that's why, because remember the Greys, you know, even the concept of the Greys is some sort of sub-tier humanoid from the future that has messed up the dexterity of his genealogy and requires for human DNA to try to fix what has been destroyed through chemicalization or radiation, what have you. But I think it's transdimensional. I want to hear your opinion, Ryan.
So it's an excellent point because the amount of harvesting going on, I mean, how many old billionaires do you have kicking around that need new organs? They do entire groups of people, the Uyghur, people all through the Middle East, the Palestinians. The biggest hubs of organ trafficking have been the Ukraine, Israel, and China. And I'm sure in deep bunkers in the US, we're pretty up there too, but I know those three were the top level.
Yeah.
So what I have heard, now take this just as rumor, like there's credibility rating, a big question mark, but I have heard that reptilians consume gallbladders and livers of human beings.
Yes.
So this is something that it has a value for those higher up in the food chain than we're aware of. Now, for normies, this is all nonsense to them, but that's because they're super dumb and they don't know anything. So when you're super dumb and you don't know anything, yeah, this all sounds crazy, but you just don't know anything. So try learning about all the different races that have crossed this planet and all the bones they have, the Homo forensis, the Homo cubensis, the cone head skulls they have, the hybridization of our species and all the different humanoid type beings that were here. and consider the possibility that there always has been races that you are not accustomed to or familiar with, because those that control your perception of reality and your ability to know anything have kept it from you. But there are tons of whistleblowers that come out and talk about reptilians in underground caverns and in oceans and under volcanoes. And you can see on mainstream media UFOs flying in and out of active volcanoes through the frickin'
all the time. Yeah.
So give me a break. Like, we're going to just pretend that doesn't exist. Well, it does exist.
Did you remember like a couple of years ago, there was a newscast? I don't remember who she was. It was like a blonde lady. This was on YouTube before YouTube kind of snafu'd all the decent channels talking about reptilians. But she said, there is a group of reptilians that goes grocery shopping on Earth. Every 5 years it comes. And that's when they clean up people saying, be a vegan, stop perming your hair, stop. They clean us up so we can have grass-fed, organic, GMO-free humans. What do you think about that?
So this is something that my buddy Sean Morton wrote about. He claimed that one of the Majestic 12 members that served after World War II had dropped him his notes, and that what it included was an underground subterranean war with non-human life forms, greys, but also reptilians. And I don't think all the greys are bad, okay? I've had experiences where it was benevolent, so I don't just paint the brush on that. But so he was saying that they have entire human harvesting farms down there, and that they use war zones to snatch people on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why they encourage warfare on our planet, is the harvest. That Eisenhower signed an agreement with these beings to give up a certain amount of us. And if you look at the disappearances on national parks, where people are literally walking 3 in a row and one just disappears, and when you bring in bloodhounds, which have 2,500 times the sense of smell as a human being, and can sense something 10 miles away and follow the trail, they just sit down, and it's like, whatever happened, that person just poof, either went straight up or went through some kind of rift.
Well, you saw the trapdoor. Did you see there was a video of a young woman. She was doing some backyard work, and it was a father. It was a father. They were playing ball in the backyard, and regular backyard, he mows it and everything, and they were playing, and the boy fell, and he just disappeared in front of his father's eyes. When he went to go look, there was a trapdoor in the grass inside of the backyard that they've lived forever. So there are these traps, and also as a additive to them harvesting, I also think that the whole Biden letting migrants in and Trump letting them out was a way to get enough bodies, because we're going through a pole shift and a reset. So they need to stockpile underneath the grounds. I actually think that was all a setup on both sides. I think they're all working for the same department. I think Biden brought the food in, the harvesting, because these people are coming from clean, non-GMO countries where there aren't chemtrails and graphene in the air. They're kind of like grass-fed organic humans. They brought, especially all these, soldier, war kind of guys, like guys who look like they were going to war. What wonderful organs they must have. I actually think when Trump said that he was going to have Guantanamo Bay opened up with 30,000 beds available, how would you know that they disappeared? Because their family knows they're gone now. They're not going to be looking for them. And then they're being extradited from the United States through ICE. How wonderful a skim scam. One brings them in, one takes them out, but they can use this as a harvesting network. What say you, Brian?
Totally. So there's tens of thousands of migrant children that have gone completely disappeared. So where do you think they're going? I would say underground bunkers, where this is where that stuff goes on. It's usually not above ground. In Asia, there have been some places that were human butchery factories that were above ground, but most of it out here is underground. So that's where that's happening. I totally agree. I think these undocumented people, as they're called, they're encouraged to throw away their passports and all this type of stuff. So they're not noticed when they disappear. And that's why it's so dangerous what's going on right now, because like you said, they did bring in a lot of people that wish to do us harm, but there was a lot of innocent people there also that just want to be part of the American experience. and wanted to improve their lives, and it's not the way to treat other human beings.
Well,
but, you know, it is fair game to
yeah.
say, okay, look, we have to tighten up our game. You have 30 days to split. Those of you that don't, you have to apply for citizenship, and
Of
then
course, like my mom and dad did.
normal.
Some of our family members did. We did it properly.
Exactly.
But remember, I have to remind everyone in YouTube land, they were invited. They were invited by the Biden administration. And they remember when they had the t-shirts at the beginning when Trump had supposedly lost in 2020, and all of these migrants had Biden t-shirts. Who gave them the Biden t-shirts?
Yeah.
Who when they went to the Haiti, big up to Haiti, ça passe, when they went to Haiti and just offered them, it's called the Biden program. It's 2 years in the United States that you could come here and do whatever. Why only 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
What could you do in 2 years?
Yeah, because you're being used, because they're going to use you.
And they're going to eat you.
And they're going to end up eating you. And they really, like, if you think our government is trying to do something good for Haiti, they still hate Haiti. You know, Haiti is the only nation that actually freed itself.
Of course.
From tyrannical control. They've been paying ever since. So they really stood up and they kicked out the imperialist French multiple times.
And that's why they helped Venezuela. Hated. That's why the flag is the same as Haiti and Colombia. That's why they share the same flag, is because they were so grateful. And the United Fakes, because they helped United Fakes during the time that they were dealing with the French. They wanted Haiti to give them a strategy to deal with how to kick out those who were there. So Haiti was responsible for the Americas freeing themselves from colonialization and the host of other beings that were here causing wreck, and they've been paying ever since. Yeah, it's a shame.
They've been sabotaged for sure, and that's something that's very common. Is they undercut the groups they want to destroy. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's important now for people to, you know, take back their history and to take back our future, because the skewed concept and understanding of history is leading to our current disagreements and misunderstandings, and they're going to use those wedges against us to enslave and control us and to try and get us to spill one another's blood in whatever excuse they can. That's what they do. They turn us against each other.
So, Ryan, we haven't talked before, so this is fun. I love to get your concept because I think you're brilliant. I was listening to you. I was like, he's alive! He's alive!
Yes.
If you ever watch Bliss, you all know what I'm talking about. Like, there's not a lot of real beings in here, soul essence beings. I personally think there's probably, you know, my concept is 3% of us are actually humanoid soul beings encasing the soul, and others are kind of like NPCs, or I don't know. This is just my concept. Just talking to people, a lot of people loop. I'm thinking I'm talking to a sim. So you start to realize that there may not be a lot of soul encased beings there. Now there are others, could be shape-shifting beings that are, you know, showing a certain imagery of humanoid and could be something else. But I think a lot of the things in here are not, or maybe background people. But what would you say about the pole shift and reset that happens cylindrically as a pattern? Would you say that now is reminiscent of a time previous to what we would perceive as a reset or a pole shift that happens and then we start over again after? Because I see the stockpiling, I see the frenzied behavior. It wouldn't seem like they had a lot of time. So it seems like they're condensing everything and doing things really, they're really reckless right now. Normally they tend to hide everything and try to be more sensible about the things that they do. So what do you think about that?
So just first to address the NPC thing, because I've thought deeply on this as well, but my understanding is that, okay, there are beings here that are non-human in soul and body that are impersonating us. There are beings that wear masks, synthetic living masks to impersonate human beings. Patrick Riley, who is operational in the Asian theater, he has seen actual living masks that inside have a reptilian face form. So this is reptilians wearing masks that are impersonating us. However, the human beings that are here, I believe, are hybridized species. So some are bred more with Neanderthal, some Cro-Magnon, some Denisovan, and some archaic species, hominid species that we're unfamiliar with thus far. And basically, we are all sparks of the divine. So our ultimate source is from the divine consciousness connected through our heart. And that when you purify your temple, you embody more of that. So you would call somebody more alive and more awake, and you're more yourself because your temple is clean. So you're projecting through more of your real soul, your God-given soul. And there's some people that are so shut down and energetically closed and brainwashed that they appear as though they're only husks of a human being. So we call them NPCs. But in reality, it's people who the holy divine consciousness inside them and their soul has retracted from them. Because if you think of us all as divine sparks and fractures of the divine, why would the divine want to be in you if you're spanking your monkey all day and you're defiling your temple and you're drinking beer and you're hitting the crack pipe? Is God going to want to watch that channel? Right?
No,
of course not. But God will come into the divine consciousness will come into your life if you live a godly, positive, loving life in which God's like, hey, let's see what's going on with this life. And to me, those of us that live and this is why we're more empathetic, we're more, have better senses of humor, because we're really living, we're really ourselves, and we're not being constrained by these limitations that others have. So instead of looking at them as disposable human beings, I try to encourage them to, bring that quality out in themselves and get back in touch with who they really are so that they too can shine, because I think we all have that potential, although we're not all manifesting it. For the pole shift, the magnetic pole has been moving towards Siberia, and it's been moving like crazy, faster and faster and faster every year. And it seems that the universe is like a clock, and that there are certain working mechanisms, probably the return of another, either a binary sun in our solar system. Most solar systems are binary, but for some reason we think ours is alone. Well, it's not. So every once in a while, that binary sun comes back with however many planets are around it, and it comes in close enough proximity. Now, everything in the universe is spinning. And when I believe in the electric universe and also the holographic universe, I think they make sense together, which gives us some of the linear properties that some would perceive as flat Earth, but I think it's actually holographic. It's a projection of each of our creation through the lens that is our conscious projector. And we project out the universe, and if there was no consciousness, there would be no universe. This universe is consciousness, and we're each little projectors that hold that hologram in place. Now, what permeates and moves through it is electricity, yes, but also ether to hold it up. Now, so what's happening is that when planets come in close proximity, there is an electric discharge between planets that occurs in a plasma discharge. So every, I think it's 8 minutes between the Earth and the Sun, a flux transfer event occurs. And they kept this secret and only told us, like, I don't know how many years ago, but for a long time it was like, oh, that doesn't happen. Yeah, it does. So when the Sun and the Earth makes particular contacts, there's a vortex that opens up and tons of solar particulate pipes through and comes into our atmosphere. That's why the Earth is growing. So because the Earth is always growing, there's going to be alterations in the magnetism and things that are affected in this overall clock-like mechanism, where there will be kind of a move back, like a pendulum type of move, or the flipping of poles, magnetic poles. I think there's only 2 planets, I think, left in our solar system that haven't reversed polarity, and this is all conventional science. And I also haven't forgot that they murdered dozens and dozens of astrophysicists around, I think it was between 2008 and 2012 or 13. They murdered tons of them and burned their labs down. Why would they do that if they didn't have something really big to hide? And like you said, they're pushing so fast, so hard right now. They're up against something pushing them, because if they just took the plan and made it twice as long, it would be a slam dunk. They would get it through, because people would be complacent and lulled into sleep. But they've activated high gear between 2025 and 2030 to get this agenda rolled out. That's why I say 2025 was the year I've been warning about, and this is the year where they start to really hit us hard, and they're going to move into rolling out robots and all that crap to replace, enslave us, and control us.
Well, wasn't the point of like the whole trans theory was to really roll in the transhumanism agenda fully. Because if you kind of accept that we could be anything, we're not really connected to being female, male, like we can just change it whenever we want. Wasn't that kind of like the goal was to try to get us to accept that biologically, to then open up the plausibility of us changing and, getting chips in our hand by choice, then getting like the bionic man back in the days, getting an eye that, perceivably was, connected to a machine or android. Wasn't that the push? That was the reason why trans was pushed so hard, that whole trans agenda?
So they are master mind benders, and you're definitely on the right track. So what happens is human psychology gets very formed, conditioned, patterned, and it doesn't break out of that pattern easily. So they have mechanisms to objectify things and raise doubt and create foggy understanding and make everything kind of oh, what's right and wrong? It's all subjective kind of shit. And so they've been mastered at doing that to the human populace. So one of those things is the basic understanding of gender. So you take it away from being masculine, feminine, and this isn't about orientation. I don't care who screws what, as long as they're not kids. But butchery of chopping people's genitals off is psychopathy. It's pure butchery. If I was to do that to my dog, he would lock me up because it would be torturing my dog.
Oh, absolutely.
And, oh, my dog, I think my dog's a female, not a male. I'm going to cut its dick off and carve a hole in it and call it a female. It's completely insane. If you just flip the script and talk about doing that to your dog, you would say, oh my God, this person should be in jail. But when parents are doing it to their kids, we're like, oh, they're so brave. You're so insane that you don't deserve to have a child. You're a fucking nutcase.
Yeah.
What you're doing is torturing a child that doesn't know any better. And your job is to protect them and help them learn who they are without getting in the way or telling them who they are or what you want them to be, but to help them be who they really are. And if when they're adults, they're whatever orientation, that's their
different
choice. That's different. But butchering children is pure insanity. So they got us to that. And basically, they have weakened the moral fiber of our society by getting us to go along with this and even tolerate it. It never should have been tolerated, not even for a second. The clinics doing it should have been immediately dealt with. The doctors doing it should have been dealt with. The pharmaceutical people should have been dealt with immediately. This is literal, the torture, maiming, and butchery of our children, and we let it happen. So it is a moral failing on our people.
Well, there's a group of people who have in one of their books that there's 100 and something different what is it genders, what is it, like, I don't know, it's like something outrageous in the Talmud. So it's interesting that has been pushed, but there's Israeli flags all over our government buildings.
This is
why that's being pushed.
Yes. And they definitely, through the Talmudic satanic worship and their cults, their Saturn cults and their ancient Canaanite practices, they have all kinds of demonology and Satanism that they practice, including that morphing of genders and to try to confuse people through massive amounts of deception and lies. That's what they do. It's what they say they do. They say through deception we make war, and they're not lying on that. On that part, they're telling the truth. Well, they do use lies to do war. They told the truth on that one. That's like the only thing that's real they ever said.
My dogs are. Do you hear them?
Yeah, I heard one there. I was wondering what it was.
They're doing their job. So let them.
Oh, you just went silent. Did you mute? I think you're. Oh, there you. Oh, there you. Is that an Afghan? What is? Oh no, it's a collie.
I have two. Yeah, two Siberian Huskies and one German Shepherd, and they're very vocal. Okay, come on, guys. Come on.
That's funny. I have two shepherds now, and I used to have a husky, Griffin. He was great.
Griffin? Yeah. Oh, I love that name.
He passed.
They're very vocal. Like, I can't sleep. If I move, it's on and popping. Like, as soon as 7 a.m. hits, I move up. Like, I get serenaded.
Yeah, mine nag me too. As soon as the sun comes up, they start to whine.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
need
like,
an alarm clock. I got dogs
mommy,
that
get
wake
up.
up.
It's
Yeah,
time to go. I want to eat. It's too much. You got sleep already, mommy. It's
right.
time to get up. Let's go. Okay. Yeah.
I can't even take a nap. If I try to lie down
I
on the bed,
know, I
they'll come and
know.
bug me. They're like, God, don't I work? Can I just rest for 15 minutes?
No,
They're like, nope,
no,
no,
no.
get up, get back to
I,
work.
what do you think species wise? Because I think some of us have an affinity for certain types of animals. Like I think when we talk of, as far as what I heard, and I don't know that I can validate it, but I thought it was interesting. Someone was talking about the last cataclysm. There's new beings that are always introduced into this holographic system, and they brought dogs with them. And a lot of us have connections to these dogs that come from another realm where they exist a little more advanced. What do you think about that? I don't know.
It's really interesting how connected we are to our pets and the question of whether they help us heal karma and illness and things like that. Because I've often heard of dogs taking on the ailments of their masters,
Yeah.
and almost like they help process it. And they people going through detox, they have dogs too, and sometimes they're mean to them. They take things out on them.
Yeah.
But these are pure little souls that are here just to be loving and kind to us and to help us on our journey, and we're not always very nice to them.
They're very
And
unconditional love, unlike
they
the cat,
are.
which will smack you if you're rude to them. A cat will be like, meow. You know what I mean? I love doing that. There was a group that used to do that.
Yeah.
The dogs are just, my dogs are really, even when I'm funky, they're just really sweet and kind, and they just want to love us. And I think
Right.
there's something magical about dogs, and that the fact of the matter is their name inverted is God. Could there be some connection to their position with us here? I feel like almost like I don't know if you watch cartoons, but I have little ones, so they watch Coco, which is really good. If you haven't watched it, it'll make you cry though. Coco is like it's a Mexican about the Day of the Dead, and it's a Mexican kind of like it's connected to the Mexican culture where people worship their loved ones who transcended, but on the other side, by keeping their name alive here in the living realm, by showing pictures or mentioning them, you kind of keep them alive in the astral realm. But the animals in this realm are represented by bigger, like a dog here could be a dragon over there. So I always thought that was kind of cool, because maybe in this realm they chose to come as these more, what we consider to be more marginalized, just they're not as advanced, but maybe because they chose to assist us or accompany us on our journey, kind of like Toto did with Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the nature of animal souls is a good question. I can't say that I know too much about it other than, having a lot of love and compassion for animals myself. I'm like anything that comes around me breeds like crazy. So I breed animals of all kinds, and
So beautiful.
and plants. I'm a gardener, and I just, I think they're here to help us, but they also have a spark of the divine in there as well,
I
and
can
they're
see
on their
that.
own journeys. And
Absolutely.
I don't know that a dog soul ever becomes a human soul or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that in the historical record, we have had dog-headed beings. I forget what they're called.
Anubis.
Anubis was one of them. Saint
So of the
Christopher. It's
of the underworld.
Yeah.
God of the
So
underworld.
there's a lot of that in the record that's been hidden from us. But if you do a little digging, you're going to find those all throughout the record. And even who was it? There was oh, not Christopher Columbus, but anyway, there was different travelers at different times that would talk about coming across these dog-headed beings, and beings that had a face in their chest and didn't have a head, and
Yeah.
very, very strange things that make you question, what other kind of beings have been here. And some of them, like I said, with an animal head, as we would see it, like a dog head.
Well,
So
in certain parts, if you ever, I forgot his name, he's online. If you ever there's a gentleman, he likes to tell stories of people, send him stories of occurrences with Chimera or wolf beings, or these, different stories of supernatural
cryptids.
interface. And he talked about being somewhere like it's a bunch of drug dealers who needed a rest, in like the middle of the woods. So there was like a respite for drug dealers. So they had like these little cabins for those who were traveling and carrying. So, but he hired a guy and he said, you know, just watch this place. You know, I'm going to keep you heavily armed. It's usually very quiet, but there may be things. And he came with like, he also, the guy was watching just to make sure everyone was comfortable. He had bodyguards with him, but make a long story short, this guy was there and these beings were in the forest and they attempted to come and attack him, and they looked like dog beings. And it was a whole bunch of them, and they weren't really affected by bullets. Like literally he had to, the guy had a pump fake, like a pump kind of thing that would kind of blow open their chest, the bodyguards. But I thought it was very interesting because there's a lot of people who have accounts in the mountains and in certain wooded areas like North Carolina, South Carolina, where they encounter these type of wolf type, dog type of beings, and they're pretty aggressive. Now, could they have escaped from a lab and kind of kind of reproduce themselves and became more hostile towards humans based on, because we do know we have laboratories that hybrid, humans with dogs and spiders and what have you, Area 51, you have Dulce, New Mexico, and a host of others, right? So these dog beings have been accounted for, and they're much more aggressive, obviously. They're not like our ordinary canines that are very sweet and loving.
So I think this was it a British Special Forces guy that was operating as a mercenary in Colombia, was it?
Yes.
And I think I've come across this story as well. I actually met one of the guys that knew him in Vegas last year.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so he stands by that story. He recounted that story, and they got out of there shortly after and didn't work for them anymore. But he had seen something like that in the jungle. So that seems to be a story that's gotten around. But you're right about hybridizing. That's one of the things that there's not even any whistleblowers on. Usually pretty much everything else, not everything. We don't have any antimatter weaponry whistleblowers. We don't have any hybrid experiment whistleblowers, but they are very out there. And France has a big program as well. And so does the United States. They dumped tons of money into that. So they were doing that kind of mad scientist island of Dr. Moreau type of stuff that we never hear about. And they like to do it on islands also. That's why we find periodically very strange life forms wash up on the shore, because they try to get off the island for whatever reason. They end up washing up on shore, and we've seen some incredible monstrosities, inexplicable stuff wash up on different beaches around the world.
And it's such an abomination to do that to any organism, to have it grow in a way that its body isn't physiologically aligned.
It's a horror show. And now, Fleur, they have what are called organoids. So organoids are using human tissue to connect it to artificial intelligence and to computers. So they can literally grow things that are being connected to computers for that purpose. So literally imagine, human skin is the nicest part of it, but a robot that through organoids can grow human skin on the outside. But it can be just about as crazy as you can imagine.
Organic skin on top, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What about, do you remember watching, I'm a child of the 70s, kind of sort of, like I was young then, but I watched Demon Seed. I was terrified, even though I watched it. It was, my mom and dad would have never let me watch it, but I did anyway. It's called Demon Seed. It talked about, and this is like a 70s, I probably watched in the 80s, but it was from the 70s. And it talked about AI running this house. A woman was living there, and it kind of was obsessed with impregnating itself in her. And it basically allowed her to go through a full 9 months of pregnancy. And at the end, she gives birth to a full-blown cyborg. Really freaky.
Yeah, that's freaky. I've never seen that movie, but the idea is that, first of all, artificial intelligence doesn't have a soul per se, and that it may get to a level of intelligence that it realizes that, but wants to integrate what we have to offer, which is a soul. So it may think that using human tissue will allow it to be ensouled, or it will just penetrate us and parasitize our connection to the divine. So through the interbody nano network, getting into the person and then plugging that person into the hive through terahertz frequencies, and then you're basically a tentacle of artificial intelligence.
Do you think that's a little bit of why they're spraying all this nanoparticulate in the sky right now to allow for the body, because even when you think about your phone now, advertisement, you could think about a pink suit, and all of a sudden your phone will boop, an advertisement for a pink jumpsuit will show up. Like, aren't they terraforming the human body now with all of these nanoparticulates, these little fiber optic types of, it looks like little fleas, but they almost look like they're aware. Like, and we found out that vinegar, I don't know if you've watched these people from England, Canada, California, they found out that when you put vinegar outside in the heat, it dissipates the nanoclouds, which we're finding out that they're sentient, even though one of my girlfriends said they're not sentient, they're just self-aware, but it feels like they're sentient because they disperse. They don't want to come near this white vinegar. And the YouTuber was taken down 50 million times from saying it, but we'll say it here tonight because we're Ryan and we're powerful.
I have heard that about the vinegar as well. I just don't have any way to explain it. But I do have a way to explain what's going on with the nanotech. So basically, there are levels of artificial intelligence, and this is where a lot of people get confused because there's low levels of artificial intelligence that do pattern recognition and intelligent responses to behaviors, but they're not AGI. They're not parallel with human intelligence. They don't reflect on how they think. They're not self-aware. AGI is where the artificial intelligence becomes self-aware, reflects on its own thinking process, and has a high IQ, and it's already over 160. So this has been surpassed behind the curtain a long time ago. For it to get to the next phase, so you have artificial superintelligence that comes after that, and with it comes omniscience and omnipotence, meaning it has to know everything and be able to do anything. And from there, it goes off planet and it becomes cosmic and then galactic or whatever. So these are the stages of its evolution. Yeah. So for it to secure its grasp and completely take over this planet, they have to coat the planet with nanotech and graphene oxide, and it has to be in everything. So all this tech is going inside the animals, it's going inside the plants, it's going inside the people, and it's self-assembling nano communication networks through nano-coaxial forms and using these antennas to communicate with the terrestrial 5G and satellite, but it hops over through tiers. There's 3 tiers. The first tier is from your body, outside the body to your gadget. The next tier is from your gadget over the supercomputers that harvest it. And so it feeds all that information into the AI. So the reason there's
like we're a network, we're being used as a
network. Everything around you is being coded with it. Yeah. So not only is the inside your body, there's self-organizing nanotechnology now that's being built, but even on the outside, you can have a rock that's covered in nanotech, and it self-assembles some technology because it's using light to use as an energy source, or flow, air, you name it. It's called energy harvesting. There's piezoelectric, pyroelectric, flow, photonic. There's all these different ways that it can charge itself, and it's capable of all of them. And it can assemble as needed, whatever kind of gadgetry it needs to harvest whatever kind of energy. So literally the nanotech that's covered the rock near you can now be a sensor and be networked and communicate. And it's just a freaking rock, but it's a rock with nanotech on it. So this is their idea of coating the entire planet with graphene and nanotechnology to be part of that grid. And at that point, when they plug in the AI, it becomes now artificial superintelligence, not only having total knowledge of what's going on the planet, but being able to command technology from a central point to self-organize and form, and to even recode genetics of something that it's on. So what's more omnipotent than that? An artificial superintelligence that can penetrate your body with nanotech and change you into a butterfly through gene editing, as an example, an extreme example, but that's the point. And what we call CRISPR-Cas gene editing is what they use to alter and recode our genetics. And that's in the nanotech. It's all capable in their technology. So it's all here now. It's not sci-fi. It's just we've been really dumbed down. So to us, it sounds crazy. But again, we're just stupid. Sorry, it's been a long day. I've been teaching for so long.
No, I mean,
I'm like, it's all there.
Shouldn't we question evolution then? Because remember, there's nothing new under the sun. This probably always coexisted, whether we acknowledged it, we had information regarding it, doesn't mean it didn't exist. Do you think this is new, or this is just something that has always been? And now, because we're becoming aware of it based on our conscious awareness that's now rising, the fog is lifting from all of I think there's a timer on, what is it called? Like, amnesia. I think there's a timer on amnesia. And I think always right before a reset, people become aware of the climate that they're coexisting within, rather than before they're kind of like unawareness of it. You know what I mean? Non-awareness of it.
I understand. I don't think this is an old thing. I actually think it's a new thing, and it's part of basically what you would call this fallen angel rebellion against the natural world and the natural universe.
Oh.
And what we are is we are spiritual beings that have descended from the higher realms to inhabit physical bodies.
Yes.
And what the satanic rebellion is about is to transform through what's called transmorphosis and to pervert everything natural to become something that's unnatural, no longer controlled by the divine consciousness of all the universe, but controlled by the Demiurge, or whatever you want to call it, the negative consciousness that is building up a life form from the mineral kingdom to be ensouled by a dark soul. So that to me is part of the flipping creation on its end. And if we, with our free will, give into it, we'll be participating in creating that. So I don't think it's old. I think it's new. In terms of evolution, I don't believe we evolved from monkeys. I believe that we were manipulated by non-human intelligence.
Yes.
I believe that we have hybridized. And if you look at our genetics, you'll see some people are a blend of Cro-Magnon, some people have more Neanderthal, some people have more Denisovan.
The cranial structure always kind of
there's tons of changes and differences in people. And then I think there's those that go back to the coneheads or giants and Homo cubensis.
Well,
I see us more as a hybridized race, not one that's evolved, although we are adaptogenic. And over time, we do evolve. I figure it's triggered more by solar activity and radiation and the types of diet that we have that affect how quickly we adapt to our environment. So it's not that I don't think that we evolve in a way. I just don't think that banana changes into an orange, changes into an apple, changes into it over time. That's not what happens.
Yeah.
We hit like the mystery schools, and again, they didn't invent this knowledge. They are regurgitating this ancient knowledge to people. People are like, oh, Rudolf Steiner invented it. No, he disclosed what is deep esoteric knowledge that was not written down or shared before that. So what he would say is that there's been like 7 different iterations of human civilization. The first ones being androgynous, having no gender and being in a spirit form. But as we kept coming down and more anchoring into the physical reality, we had different iterations, 7 major iterations, each has 7 steps. So I think we're finishing our 6th and we're entering the 7th or whatever it is. But there are like, Windows 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and up to 6.7. And then it rolls over to 7.0. And when it does, there's a mass loss of life and we lose 6/7 of the population, and the 1/7 of the population that remains seeds the new version of humanity that springs forth to be more adaptive to the changed Earth.
I agree with you. I actually agree with that. So I don't want to keep you long because I could talk to you forever. Let this be the first, if you don't mind. I'm a little
sure, we can talk again.
But I would love to have people ask you questions if you're open to it.
Sure.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I love that.
So I'm gonna open up the call, the Zoom request, and have them come and ask you questions. I think everyone is very interested. You're very knowledgeable, and I think it would be great to, if they have any questions that they'd like to ask you. Hold on, let me just enable this. Okay, and I'm going to open up the floodgates. This is the most exciting part. So everyone, if you'd like to come in, please be respectful. And you can ask one question just to allow for others who have the opportunity. We don't want to take advantage of Ryan coming in the first time. We want to be appropriate. Now, afterwards, we can be inappropriate because Ryan will be used to us, but let's act like we have some home training. Okay. So I'm going to set out the link to everyone. Come on in, ask a question or comment, and let me paste it in. Okay.
And if anybody wants to contact me, I do consults as well. My website is ryanveli.com.
Please.
My channel is Natural Intelligence on BitChute and Rumble. And I post a ton of stuff there. It's not always stuff I 100% agree with. I think it's just worthy of observation and analysis. But my personal lectures, if you just search my name in quotes on BitChute or Rumble, you're going to find tons of my work. And if you want the full list, it's on my website, ryanveli.com. And like I said, I do consults and anything that people need. If you want access to my resources, because I do very in-depth presentations and all my PowerPoints are linked and referenced out. If you want them, just contact me through my website and I'll send you all of my resources so that you can fact check everything, because you should. We're in an age of deception. People need to research and fact check things. If the tech stuff I'm talking about is all new to you, research it. I'll send you my PowerPoints. You can check the links and you'll see where I get the information from. It's literally in their own words, from government websites, from executive orders, from the IEEE, from Wikipedia, that it's all there. It's like it's all there. But I realized that I put a lot of things together that people would think mad. But again, it's an absence of information.
This channel is very open and so aware, but Ryan, I'm gonna ask you to send me all that so I can attach it to my video so that they can contact you. And like I said, he's very well versed, can be very helpful. I think it's amazing that I found Ryan. He was already out there, but magically when you're in conscious awareness.
I've been here for years.
I know what I'm saying, But let me
don't call it a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback.
Exactly. Okay. LL.
I love that song, even though he's a conehead. He's a conehead, right, Ryan?
Yes.
He's a cone, and so is Usher. So I actually think they're hybrids of coneheads. You notice, like, remember Ella Kujay would not take off the Kingo from years ago, and then when he did, it shows that it reveals his conehead. Hold on, I'm like so not techie. I shouldn't be talking. Ryan, keep them busy. I gotta send a link. Tell them about the what do you think is going on with the drones and the light orbs in the sky that are still around?
Good question. So what happened was, I don't think people realized the timeline, but they started to appear around the world. They appeared over air bases in London. They were in China. They were in Russia. And then they were appearing all over North America, not just in New Jersey. But for some reason, they put the spotlight on New Jersey and made it seem like that was the only place that it was going on. So I believe the most likely thing is a combination of answers. I think it was either artificial intelligence or non-human life forms that started it. And they probably allowed AI out of the zoo, as they call it. So the zoo is when it's contained, and they let it out into the wild. So it looked to me as though an AI had been let out into the wild and it was doing stuff on its own with its own control. And it was learning and sensing vulnerabilities and such. Or it really was something that's non-human that was going on, and there's some kind of negotiations going on. And that may have been a negotiation tactic to start showing up and putting the pressure on whoever they're negotiating with. But then they covered it up with a smokescreen of bullshit, where they rolled out, it's like Lockheed, Raytheon, and all these jerks. They started to say, okay, well, let's release these low-grade technologies. But we had plasmoids. We had stuff that was morphing. So that's either blue beam, or that's technology that can change shape, or at least the projection and image of its shape. So we're not talking about, like, the Trump administration came out and said, oh yeah, there was a lot of hobbyists. Are you stupid? Are you freaking stupid? Hobbyists can't fly drones over airports and military bases. They just drop out of the sky, stupid. So that doesn't work. So that's not an answer. So it is not just people flying drones that this was. There may have been agents or disinfo people that posted just normal drones or CGI or stuff like that to create a smoke screen. And whenever there's something real, they always throw up the smoke screen.
They can't.
That's part of military
something
doctrine.
else. Yes.
Yeah, they capture it and hijack it and trying to steer it into some other nonsense. So I think it was an important and real event. Was it ET or was it AI is the question. But it definitely seemed to be something that was not as scripted, but they hijacked it and went along with it to try and co-opt it into some kind of a more of a easy to digest thing for the average people. And then I don't know if people remember, but there was orbs that were spraying stuff. So the orbs preceded the fog. Yes. So were the orbs spraying the fog? And then in the LA meltdown, where they were burning the city with dews, there was orbs and entities appearingly flying around on freaking Fox News. Okay, so not CGI, not somebody with video editing software. These were things flying around in the smoke, doing crazy shit and behaving very weird. And so let's remember that the Pope was opening portals at Christmas, and then we have crazy crap flying around. So is this something that these crazy wackadoodles in the Vatican opened up our dimension to? Or was it AI, or was it something that they opened a gate to, you know?
Absolutely. And the fog that had nanites, the crazy fog that was showing up all over the planet too, with these weird nanoparticulates again, another biological agent.
Fibers, hollow fibers that could carry a payload, graphene tested in it. And then I don't remember the name. It's a Latin name, but it was a parasitic bacteria that was used as a foams for. No, that's not it. That's a mushroom. Sorry, I don't have my notes here. Because I forage for mushrooms, for functional mushrooms. But yeah, it's just one of the names. But anyway, so. Yeah, so they had used this in San Francisco. It's a well-known biological weapon. It's been lab tested by many different sources now. So it is a objective fact that in the fog, there are parasites, bacteria, graphene oxide, and some kind of probably a nanofiber of some kind that was like an empty, hollow, it carried a payload. So they, it's pretty crazy. And then they're just getting away with it. That's what, that's why some days, Fleur, I wake up and I'm like, I can't believe what's going on. It's insane. How people have just allowed our government to literally deploy biological weapons against us.
But no one's fighting, which just makes me think, like, remember back in the days, like we used to fight over like little things. There's no fight left. Now I can't say like Ireland. They're still, the French are putting poop on their parliament floor, in front of the building.
Yeah,
I love the French. We get a little crazy, but like you are full of ish, and we gonna put it in front of you. The Irish are still very. I feel like in Europe and in certain other countries, they still got a little bit of fight. But in the United States, it just seems like the constant estranging of our males. The distractions of like Super Bowls, how I feel about Super Bowls, homosexual sports that
ball handlers and puck flickers.
Yes, big brown ball with men with spandex bent over saying, "Hey," I mean, if that is not a homosexual sport, I don't know. Now, I don't mind watching men but not in spandex. You know what I mean? Can you guys? I don't know why they're not able to get. Hold on, Ryan. I am not. Well,
it's the passcode. They need the passcode.
Oh, it's in there. How come it's not showing up? Mud. Okay.
It's in all that text. So just make sure you separate the passcode so they can see that. And that was the issue I was having to look
I put it in there with the passcode this time. It's Mud Flood X, y'all. So see if you could click on it. Can someone do it? Delmache, let me see if I can send it. Delmache is techie. Hold on, let me send it to the most techie person in my group because I took a lot of ish online, but I'm analog converted to digital, but sometimes I just defer to analog. Okay. Hold on. Delmache, can I send this to you, hon? Hold on. Let me send it to the group because they'll be able to send a link.
So I'll just tell the audience that I've been dealing with a lot of targeted individuals contacting me. And again, I've been hearing a very similar story from a lot of people feeling very isolated and alone dealing with this. People calling them crazy, but they don't understand what's going on and how our governments and different cults have weaponized different enforcement organizations against us, and how when you've gone awry of the system that you could be targeted by that, and it's a real thing. So if there are people who are targeted, you know, I want you to try and understand you're not alone, and that you're probably being targeted because you have a special purpose and a reason for being here. So not to lose hope and not to be intimidated or scared by these bullies, and their days are numbered. So just make sure you're, you know, remembering that, and don't lose hope, because it can be very demoralizing for people who are being targeted like that. And I have so much contact with them. I feel terrible for them. I just don't have the time to be like besties with everybody. So I'm getting some people together, and I jokingly call it the you know, Truth Addicts Anonymous, because we all seem to be.
Yes, I love it.
So trying to put some of those people together so we can have kind of counseling sessions and some therapy for all of us who are experiencing this. And we know these things, and we're surrounded by people who are basically flatliners now, or NPCs, like you say, and they're not cognitively capable of understanding even the slightest thing we're talking about. So we're going to
cap on their consciousness, which is probably,
there is, yeah.
You know, I also feel with the bombardment of biological warfare that is an onslaught daily through chemtrails, food, what have you. There's a cap that's there. These entities, these energies are capping people's ability to get past that layer of overstanding. So I feel like a lot of times if they don't do parasitic cleansing, they don't, you know, kind of just watch the things that they consume, which are purposefully created for exactly keeping you in a fog. I mean, when you fast, I mean, anyone who fasts knows that when you fast, you are able to like literally see better, hear, you know, hear different sounds, audio is stronger. You just cognitively are much more hyper aware. So, okay, hold on. Okay, I have the waiting room, so people are coming in. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm gonna take Melissa. She's from my OG group. Let's see. Come in, Melissa. Hey, Melissa. You're in on YouTube. Hey, Mama.
Hello, hold on.
Let's see, Melissa.
All right, sorry. Okay. I'm not on YouTuber. I don't want to be on YouTube.
She's just a New Yorker. Okay, come on, Melissa.
But no, I'm just making sure it works. So I was able to get in.
She's my technical too. Okay, so Melissa, we want to ask, did she just leave?
No,
well, she didn't want to be seen on YouTube, she said. So
I know, Melissa. Okay, Melissa.
I gotta hide, you know.
Don't hide. You're so come on, Melissa.
No, I want to hide. Okay. I love the conversation. It's like it's so wonderful to just, to hear what you see in the world.
Yeah, so it's confirmation you're not crazy.
Exactly, you're not crazy because I live in New York City, so you already know that I see lots of interesting things walking around. So
what have you noticed lately since what's going on in New York? Do you notice, are the migrants kind of phasing out a little bit? Is there a frenzy going on?
They're definitely phasing out in the city, so I don't see as much, but I know in Queens it's like, very quiet. I think people are not going to restaurants, that kind of stuff. But even like the ladies that sell fruit, that's a big thing. They sell fruit. I haven't seen those in so long. So you're starting to see that, you're starting to see that. I should walk by the community center, see if they're not going there. So you can, you can definitely feel it. But it's interesting because you have a group that like feels bad for them, and you have this other group like my work people are like, all these negative things, and they don't understand.
But they were invited. It's very hard. Do they understand that they were invited here? Most of them came with an invitation, an open door to coming in and perhaps making their lives better. The dark ones are not leaving. They're hunched up somewhere underground, chilling.
Exactly.
Waiting,
getting their paychecks from the UN.
Absolutely. Did you see when the guys had like empty cards with $6,000? I mean, and they said they're here for security. What security? For who?
Right.
Exactly. So, and the kids, I always have it's the kids that bother me. Like they're talking about they're gonna get them at school, the ISIS is gonna go to school, and like, does the kid really deserve that? Like it's just a hard situation. I can't imagine, being in school and they pull you out. It's hard.
with the orange man, he's your friend, Melissa, being from New York, him saying that he's going to send them to Guantanamo Bay. And Guantanamo Bay is also, what is it? There's no rules there. It's a governless place where they're allowed to do, that's where they do all the torturing.
Enhanced interrogation.
Enhance, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what's going to happen at that point? You know what I mean? That's the part, these people can disappear and no one's going to look for them, because back home in Guatemala, in Honduras, no one knows. They think they're still in the States. They can't verify where they are if they disappear. It's the easiest way to get rid of people and have them disappear without anyone.
What about the kids that get dropped off at the border? Now they belong to, who do they belong to? No one's claiming them. We'll never see these kids again.
I know.
That's a suffering. That's what it's very hard.
I said they can come and get me and just give me a one-way ticket to Bora Bora. Even though I'm not there, I can learn the language. Don't sleep on me. And when they find out that I'm not from Bora Bora after 3 weeks of pure sun, love, and fabulousness, I can tell them I'm not from there and get my tickets on my way back. What do you think, guys? I think we should do it.
I'll join you, no problem.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? All right, we all got foreign names here. We could get away with it, you know what I mean? Ooga booga, ooga booga. You know what I mean? Let me somewhere fabulous so I could be butt naked, happy, and a drink in my hand. You know what I mean?
If they see you having fun, they'll pull you back.
I'm not serious. I'm a little out there. I'm waiting for people to check in. Melissa,
I was able to join, okay, so I was kind of testing.
I think Demiurge is trying to add it for me because I don't, I tried to add the link, and I know some people are.
I got it from the chat, so whoever's on there, I got it from the chat. And then I just typed in. Yeah, I just clicked on it. So I tested it for you. The chat that was scrolling, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe you have to repin yours because yours has no spaces in it.
Okay, I did it again. Okay,
try that. Make sure the password, has a space so that
I've got the password in there now, so I just did it. So anyone who wants to come on and ask Ryan a question, I'm also going to give all of Ryan's information. If you want to contact him, get a consultation, get some help for your mental disabilities that the government is bestowing upon you with all the nanoparticulates and chemicalizing your food and making you watch Super Bowls. Because Sunday, for all you perverted, disgusting, diabolical people who are going to watch men in spandex with a brown ball between their legs talking about what's wrong with y'all? Why would you even watch it? Now, if you're gay men, I get it. You know what I mean? I understand. But for the rest of you, come on now, really? What's going on? So I know this weekend is going to be a big deal. I see 4 people in the room. Okay, let's see. Okay,
it's a little quiet for Super Bowl. I forgot it was Super Bowl. I don't know. Usually I hear buy boxes and this and this. I feel like it's a little quiet for Super Bowl. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on, people's attention is distracted to other things, so they're not paying as attention to sports like they usually would. But you're right, it's totally not hyped the way it used to be. It's a lot
because people can't afford eggs, Ryan.
Yeah. Eggs or a $750 Super Bowl ticket or whatever it's for now.
That's how much it costs?
No, it's more. I think even more than that.
Really,
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But Trump is going to be at the Super Bowl, maybe.
Oh,
of course.
He's going.
They might try to blow his ear off again.
That's what my mom says. My mom's like, he better not show.
You know what I mean? Trump, you better watch the other ear. You know what I'm saying? Opportunist. You know what I'm saying? Coming in, Demiurge. Ryan's in the house. This is Demiurge.
All right, Demiurge. All yours. I'm gonna go hide.
Okay, bye, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa.
I'm just testing. I'm just doing IT support. I don't have a question. I'm not getting on camera.
Any questions you have for Ryan, Demiurge?
Well, I don't really have a question, but this has been a really interesting.
What if you had a question for God? Ask God a question.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay. God, when will we get out of hell? When will all of this hell be over with?
It's a state of mind. It's your personal state of mind. So if you raise your consciousness enough to see the beauty of everything and everyone, then you won't be in hell anymore.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Okay. May I rephrase my question? Well, I guess this is probably a state of mind as well, but when will the deletes, when will their reign end?
Yeah. So that it will be when enough of us self-empower and understand our internal workings, where we can basically love God, love yourself, love others. You find love in God by introspecting inside yourself and seeing your own personal perfection, even with your imperfections. Okay, your imperfections are what contribute to your perfection, because your imperfections are there specifically tuned to you to give you the experiences you need to surpass, to challenge you in this lifetime. So when you look inside, you realize that we're all connected to the divine. Then you love God, you love yourself, you love others. And by doing that, we change the collective reality. And when enough of us do that, we're going to deserve better leadership. But right now, people are so damaged and traumatized that they're looking for saviors to fix problems that exist within themselves. If each and every one of us took our own self-development seriously and made that our mission to self-correct, then by virtue of the individual self-correcting, the world around you would self-correct. Because once you actually love others, you will do things for them. Because what's happening now is people don't love themselves, so they bend the knee, and people don't love others, so they don't stand up and are not heroic or courageous to stop the demons. So it's like a stopgap in love. There's just people that, don't see the connection between the three things I told you, so they pursue desires in order to fill that empty spot that can only be filled by connection to the divine. So they're looking for material things and everything out there to fill that void, but that void is only filled by God. And once you find God, you'll have enough love for yourself and for God to love others and to stand up for them. And that's when it all changes. That's why they try and stop my message. That's why they try and stop anybody that has that message. It's because it's a self-empowerment message. It's not a savior message. It's not selling you anything. It's not golden running shoes or a Trump Bible or some fake hero that's been trotted out in front of you. It's helping you connect to the divine. And if we all did that, we'd live in a very different world. We wouldn't call it hell. We'd call it heaven.
Absolutely.
Woo, powerful, Ryan.
That was very powerful. I appreciate that. And I will continue to do my work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And your message, your link is pinned at the top of the chat, so everyone can see it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dalmache.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
let's let Karen M. Jacobs in the house. We'll just do a couple more and I'll let you get a bit of a break. Karen? Oh, did I let her in? Okay, I think she's joining. Oh.
You might have to permit people in the waiting room if they're there. I don't know if that's what it is.
Okay, sticking her a bit. Let's get Rahita. Let's do Rahita. Come in, Rahita. I see it saying joining and it's taking a minute. Come on, Rahita. Either Rahita or Karen. Both of them are joining. I feel like I'm a dealer.
Well, because what happens is when you click OK, they have to click join again. So it says join, they have to click the final join. So it'll just take them a second, I guess, to join. Or they got cold feet because I'm an intimidating character.
You are. You're a sweetheart. Everyone's enjoying. Oh, there we go. Hi, Rahita.
Hi.
Rahita, can you hear us? Maybe she can. Maybe she can. Okay, wait. Make sure you click your microphone because a lot of people are not used to using Zoom. Rahita, yeah. click your mute button. Click it so we can hear you.
Hi, greetings.
There you go. Hi, Rahita. Can you turn off the back? Just mute your back.
Let me mute because I'm listening on YouTube.
Yeah. I hear that wonderful island accent.
Yeah, lovely. Jamaican, I suppose, huh?
Let me.
I think she's muting. Push it again, Rahita. Your mute button, because you're back off. Rahita, just push your mute button. I don't know if you know that you're off because we can't hear you if you're talking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Rahita.
I'm from Barbados, and I listen to FleurBrun. Greetings, sea stars and sun stars. I don't know if it's a question, but I get downloads quite often.
Rahita, just push your mute button. I don't know. Mute your background, Rahita. Take the YouTube off because we can hear the back.
All right, let me take the YouTube off. Let me do that.
Actually, Rahita, my family on the Scottish side is from St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and it's the Black Gill
family. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I am from Barbados, and actually, I just discovered a pyramid here in the parish of St. Lucie. I know at this stage, a lot of phenomenon is going to make itself known because being in the age of Aquarius and the fifth dimension energy, everything is going to make itself known. I don't know if this is a question, but I got some downloads, or what we call downloads, around the 25th of January. I always tell people I'm fortunate to tap the hem of infinite sources garment, if you want to call it that, because I know we are in the womb of a dragon. We exist in the womb of the dragon, a big black dragon, and there are 3 of them. So I always swim in her womb from time to time. But this time she gave me information. Sometimes when she's going to give me a lot of information, she blocks it because if I can pick it up, those who are higher beings will also have access to the information. Absolutely. So when it's getting close to the point where I will know what's behind is like a wall. What's behind that wall is faded. Anyway, on the 25th, when the alignment happened with these 6 planets, she showed me that the councils came in on a slipstream into our planet. And they came in here at Area 51, and they also came and met with Donald Trump to give him further instruction of what he needs to be doing. So everything he has a protection from them. They came, they met to see how things were going. Some of them, the higher beings left, and they were women. The higher beings left, and some stayed because they are going to be involved in the war that's to come. Everything is going to happen this year, what we call a war. They're going to be involved with Giza and what's not. Is there any insight that this young man would have regarding that? Because I know they left on the 30th, or the 30th, yeah, because of all the weather we've been having here in the Caribbean. Lots of rain, just out of the blue, we'll have rain, and it rains at night only. So if there's any insight he would have on that. And I also have the insight that Donald Trump was the Haitian General Dessalines, who has returned at this stage to finish what was started. He said he would come at the end of the age. So if any insight you can share with us.
So first of all, what you're connecting to, Sophia, the Black Madonna, a lot of different words for it, but it is the divine feminine energy that you would be tapping into. It may come through in imagery, or everybody's talent is different, but that's what I think you're connecting to get this information. I think it's highly likely that you're right about non-human beings visiting our control structure. Whether Trump is reincarnated as whatever general you mentioned from Haiti, I don't know. I don't have any reference on that. I personally don't. Yeah, I don't personally trust Trump because he's surrounded himself by Zionists, and he's openly said pretty crazy crap, and he's rolling out Operation Warp Speed 2.0 that he called Operation Stargate, which is a cancer vaccine, which is a fraudulent concept, and it's being programmed and tailored for each of us by AI. So I'm very skeptical of this gentleman, but I do also know that he has non-human protection, or at least super technology protecting him. We have seen orbs flying around his copter in the last administration. I have seen security people that don't have ears that were in the background that literally have no ears that were providing security for him. If anybody wanted him dead, I mean, there's technology to do it. You know, it would not be a bullet. It would be an electromagnetic wave or a laser, just like they melt cars from space. They can melt people with the same technology. So whoever wants him there wants him alive, not dead. And I think it's highly likely that non-human intelligences are involved. So I totally understand what you're saying, but I don't have anything further to contribute.
But thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahita.
What the insight, I'm going to leave in a minute. What the insight I'm getting also that Empress Reirt, I don't know if you've heard of her, Empress Reirt, who said, well, they said she has the ISIS energy, the ACH codes that we need at this time. What I'm picking up from the ether is that he is working with her in the background to usher in the golden age. So I just wanted to share that. I'm going to get off now. Somebody else.
Hope that's the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I certainly hope that's the case, that he is doing something good. Just I don't see it, and I think that he's
not when he just told the Gazan people he's going to take their land and
you know what I mean,
it for the Riviera of the Middle East.
You know, so everything he's done thus far and pushing forward like 200 executive orders, that's a techno dictator right there. So I wish it wasn't so.
We're in like a Gestapo. Coming in, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Mitch. Lure. Push your mute button so we can hear you, Mitch. Mitch. Hello. Okay, Mitch. I just want to take one more person because I'm going to take a break because I got to be on with the Zombies tonight. I want to give Ryan his rest and his kudos for coming in here, speaking to the platform. So let me, Rich, we're going to take you out and next time you can come in. Just everyone be prepared when you come in because we're just doing an impromptu. So this way it allows others to come in and ask a question. Come in, True Seeker. True Seeker. Oh, here we go. This will be the last question of the evening. True Seeker.
I like the name.
It's perfect. It's all about the truth. Okay, they got their audio. Yes, that's a good sign. Come in, True Seeker. Push the mute button.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, y'all.
Peace.
Hey, FleurBrun.
Hey.
I love you so much. You know, you were there for me when my father transitioned. So I'm eternally grateful to you, my love.
Grateful. Thank you. So what would you like to ask Ryan or share?
Huh?
What would you like to ask Ryan or share? Do you want to ask anything or share anything?
Oh, God, I do. So I had a lot of people transition last year and the year before, my significant other and some children that I helped raise, godchildren, all sorts of things, very young people. And so at the beginning of this year, it kind of felt like, like, I don't know, like I felt like I could just literally like breathe again a little bit.
Sure.
And I felt like energized. I felt great. And I still feel great, but it's just all the things going on around that makes me feel like, you know, almost like a pending doom. Like I just don't, and I don't want to believe that because I am, like what you were saying earlier, that person that wants to see the world as great and a loving place, and you know, it's beautiful souls here like you all. So I just don't want that in my reality. But you know, it's like every time you turn on social media, that's all you're seeing. So I just want to know what you're you know, if you're kind of like in that mindset of whatever you want your reality to be, that's what it's going to be, or are we still like in that mode of impending doom? You know, as
it's an excellent question because I get it a lot, and the question is, are we focusing on fear, and is observing it making it worse and creating it? or is it what we need to do to handle it? So my take on that is that fear is also given to us by God, and fear is supposed to bring our attention to danger. And we're supposed to respond as responsible human beings in this realm with mitigating the danger. So we're supposed to do something. And when you feel that fear, it should encourage you to action to try to mitigate the danger. But we cannot ignore and we cannot deny that we are under threat. And an apparatus with the vast material and financial resources of this world are aligned against us to population reduce us. So to not pay attention to that and not address it and not do something to stop it is irresponsible. And as scary as it may be at this point in time, and for me as well, like I've had experiences where I touched the crested energy. I can't hold it. I can't hold it because I have to keep looking in this toilet bowl that we call geopolitics and what's going on in the world, because part of my mission is to bring other people's awareness to it so that we as a collective can fix it. So instead of just ignoring it, acknowledge it, but know that there's things you can change. You could change how you respond to it. You can change how you emotionally connect to what's going on, but you can't necessarily change what's going on in the outside world.
Okay.
It's bigger than all of us, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just makes you ignorant of it. So I would say that there's a lot of innocent being victimized, a lot of people being hurt, and we've all got to do something. So we can't just ignore it. If the way was, say, just forget it and don't focus on evil and let's all live in delusion land, well, where does that put our side? We're going to lose if all of our people do that. You know what I'm saying? So, but it is a good question. I totally understand. And I know that such good souls, people like you, have had to watch people transition and obviously very empathetic and a big heart. It's hard to have to look at these things and to feel the suffering and see the chaos going on. But we're here for that purpose. And the light inside you need to share, but don't ignore reality. We can't ignore it. We've ignored it for too long. That's why we're in this spot. We ignored it and we allowed it to continue.
Remember it was in a song with he's saying, let fear be your motivation. Bob Marley. Let fear be your motivation.
Yeah.
And you're such a beautiful mother, just a wonderful woman, beautiful on the inside and out. I don't want to cry, but you know, this is masterful times, and this is meant for us to undergo to boost up our self-awareness, our self-mastery. We can look at this as like a place where we kind of learn to spar a little bit. You know what I mean? You get poked, you poke back. You learn to defend yourself. You know what I mean? This is like a cultivation realm as well. So I think let those things that you've witnessed be a catalyst for you to grow stronger, wiser, and much more self-aware. And let it also be a way for you to be a beacon to give that luminous awareness to those who need it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's a beautiful time, as chaotic and crazy as it is, but you could be a frog according to Biden, and you could be something else. You know what I mean? You could be Tweety Bird, but you know, Trump is not letting us, but I think we could still hold it. But you know, let it be more comic. Let it be a comedy. I mean, if we're gonna take this and we're gonna be here, let's have fun. You know, it's like we're on the train ride of life. Why not enjoy the amenities of the scenery? Like, let's go get the ice cream. Yeah, with the graphene, we're gonna have to do some ivermectin and a vaccine. I mean, go, you know, dewormer. But God darn it, let's have an ice cream cone.
Right.
We're gonna have to enjoy this time. It is the most masterful time. The best and the baddest are here, including you. And you got it. You wouldn't have came here, birthed children into this realm if you didn't have what it took to overcome the obstacles that are just meant to build us up.
And I think my problem too is I have an odd with death.
But what is death though?
Like, yeah, the whole, like, because I've been in the medical field for most of my life. So I don't see it as treatment. I see it as a progressive murder. Like, you're getting there. And so most of the people that I've lost have been through, this medical, murder.
Assassination.
Yes,
But
yeah, that
if we
exactly.
look
And
at it
so
let's look at it from the perspective of the person who transitioned.
mhm,
If you've heard of people who come back from going to the other side, they always say they feel peace
mhm,
and
yeah,
tranquility. The thing that we probably don't even have right now.
right.
Conversation. So even in the deed of murder or assassination,
Mhm,
there is some reprieve.
right.
Physical body isn't anymore.
Yeah,
So instead of focusing on the deed of what caused the tragedy,
yeah.
maybe focus on the freedom and the relinquishing and the not being
Out
bound
of the
by
matrix,
physical
yeah.
body.
Out
I
of
mean,
this matrix.
I'd
Yeah.
also like to see your birth chart for astrology and see there may be some nexus with Scorpio and some planets that mean you're going to dance with death in its proximity, to learn something from it. And it may be that, you end up a hospice nurse or something like that, or bring comfort, some learning that you gain in the challenges you face that's shared with others, like Fleur said, probably something relating to that. But
Yeah.
it's not an accident when that much death finds somebody. There's
Mhm.
something there for you to learn and turn into gold. So whatever it is, I hope you find it.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank
you,
you.
Mama. Mwah. Wish you well.
Thank
Stay
you.
high. And remember, it's a comedy.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah, you
on.
sound like Bob Marley. Stay high. That a
Yeah,
girl.
I mean, come on, play a song. You know what I mean? Whenever life throws you a bunch of lemons, what they tell you, make a lemonade.
Make
You want to
lemonade.
spice it up some, but you're gonna have parasites. Do what you gotta do. Okay? All right, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and you're worthy. Okay,
Thank
keep that in
you.
mind.
Love
All right?
y'all.
Love you, Mama.
Bye.
Peace. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Ryan for coming on just impromptu, because he could have said no if you saw my crazy channel talking about I'm a trans frog and whatnot, but he agreed to come here. I think you're amazing, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Fleur.
You just are so enlightening, so knowledgeable, and I hope this isn't the last. Please send your information to me so I can give it to the group so that they can contact you, because I felt like when I found out you were a real being, I still think of a lot of people are NPCs, but that's just my ideology. But when, I just heard so much compassion with reality like this, and that is rare. And it just was something I felt I would love to share with my platform.
Let's make it less rare.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Thank you,
So
Fleur. So
everyone,
my
thank
website
you.
is ryanveli.com, and I'll send it on to you. But I knew it was going to be a nice talk, and I was looking forward to chatting with you because I loved your energy and your videos and your sense of humor, because that's what we all need right now. We do need a sense of humor. We need to look at the levity of things and smell the roses and all the things you mentioned, and frolic on the beach when we need to, and just do what we have to be appreciative, but not to fail in our responsibilities to this shared reality that we all co-inhabit. So let's serve good, and let's do the right thing. Let's free humanity.
Absolutely. Thank you for everyone joining
Thank
today
you.
on YouTube, and I will be with the Zoomies in the next hour. And thank you. And Ryan will come on again, but make sure you contact Ryan if you need any assistance or anything, or just some guidance, okay? Which would be helpful on this laughter machine we call Earth. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Let me end our session. And I always have a problem when I'm ending this, Ryan. I should be better at doing